Hi, my name is Romina Chihai. As an interior designer, I have always been fascinated by creative processes and design representation, both analog and digital. In the field of digital tools, I was missing a renderer that could keep up with the speed of my thoughts. So I started using Inkscape to meet that need. Now, in addition to visualizing projects while I am designing them, I can create amazing images at the same time to show the results. Now, in addition to visualizing projects while I am designing them, I can create amazing images at the same time to show the results. Today I will show you how I create realistic lighting in SketchUp with Inkscape. In order to achieve realistic results for my interior renders, I'm always looking at lighting. I want even lighting with soft shadow and visible contact shadows. I have already created this 2D model of a loft apartment. To do this in Inkscape, I like to use the different light types, which I'm gonna show you next slide. There are 5 different lights you can put in SketchUp, the Inkscape objects windows. And these are the spotlights, sphere lights, rectangular lights, disc lights, and linear lights. Let's take a closer look at the 5 different SketchUp light fixtures. We'll start with the spotlight. A spotlight is fairly self-explanatory with functions similarly to a spotlight in real life and provides a very direct source of light. A spotlight is a cone of light which emits light from a single point in one direction. By changing how wide the cone angle is, you can control how much of your scene is actually illuminated. The width of the cone can also determine whether the light is hard or soft. A spotlight is placed with 4 clicks, the first 2 clicks determining the end point and the second 2 clicks determining the direction of the light cone. It is sometimes easier to quickly place the light and then adjust it to how you want it to be after the initial placement. So to place a spotlight, click once to select the surface or axis of which the placement of the actual light source is based off. Moving the mouse will then allow you to define the axis or face that you wish the light to run along or be placed. Once decided, make the second click to define the light source. Once you have clicked to select the face or axis, move your mouse to finally select the actual light target. The maximum length for a spotlight cone in Inkscape is 10 meters. As already mentioned, the Inkscape object window will show 2 sliders which will allow you to adjust the luminous intensity, which defines the brightness and range of the light, and the beam angle to control the width of the light beam. Also available is the option to load an IES profile file. Let's take a look at the SketchUp sphere light next. In this default state, the Inkscape sphere light is a point light which sends light out from a single point in space, equally in all directions. In this way, the effect it gives is similar to a common incandescent light bulb. Sphere lights are useful not only because they can simulate light sources like light bulbs or candles, but also because they can be used to light areas with gentle fall off in all directions. A sphere light is essentially an omni or point light, which means that the light sends out light rays from a single point equally in all directions, which results in a gentle fall off in all directions. The placement of a sphere light only takes 2 clicks. The first click selects the surface of axis from which the light source's placement will be based off of, and the second click places the light. You can then adjust the intensity of the light using the luminous intensity slider, which is then shown in SketchUp by the size of the light object increasing or decreasing respectively. Rectangular and disc lights. These are two similar lights. The rectangular and disc lights. These are area lights. This means that they do not emit light from one infinitely small point in space like the spot or point light. Instead, they emit light across their surfaces uniformly, resulting quite literally in an entire area of light. Because an area light emits from across its entire surface, it tends to produce light that is softer and more subtle than other lights. It produces a diffuse light with softer, less dramatic shadows. So these two lights behave in almost the same way, the only difference between the two being the shape of the beam. The differences between these two types of lights and the spotlights is that where the spotlight sources is a single point, the rectangular and disc lights have the same shape at each end of the light. Placing either is done in the same way as is done from the spotlight using the 4-click system. There are some slight difference between the two lights, however, once a rectangle light has been placed, you will get a number of control points which allow you to adjust the length and width of the beam. Now, as you can see, I am adding several line lights grouped together, the rectangular lights, and this type of lights provide the scene with very soft shadows and a lot of ambient light. This type of lights are used only on the inside of the room, just like photographic lights, to enhance the final shot. In this case, I made a group out of multiple rectangle lights that are slightly moved and rotated around their axis, and this spreads the lights and shadow in different directions, again creating soft shadows, and they also enhance contact shadows. For example, where the furniture touches the floor, or where spotlights touch the ceiling, and even when an object is close to the wall. After all the lights are set up, make sure the exposure is set correctly so the image isn't overexposed. I'm gonna click on Visual Settings and adjust exposure, artificial light brightness, and ambient brightness. You can also use the field of view, the exposure, to make sure it's not too exposed our picture. Also, there is a projection like 2-point projection, the perspective. If we change the perspective in the Inkscape visual settings to 2-point view, you'll be able to notice that all the vertical lines are now set straight and at 90 degrees angle. One-point perspective is used mostly when taking renders in a bird's eye view, but that is not the most common view we render at. Even though this is how we see buildings in real life, this is not the way that most architectural images are taken. You can also change the saturation, the color temperature, and also the highlights and the shadows. One of the default Inkscape settings is to have the sun intensity set very high. So most of the time it is best to use a sun intensity of 7 to 15%, as this is the most natural range of sun intensity that we experience in our day-to-day life. Therefore, I believe changing the sun intensity makes the scene much more realistic. After we finish to adjust all the exposure and the lighting, we'll have to frame our image so we can rendering, and I would just try to put on the eye level so the image will look more realistic. After we are done with all the settings, you can go on the top and save your render. Let's talk about a few tips for creating a realistic interior rendering. The first tip is to adjust your lighting. Exterior lighting matters when there are exterior windows or skylights within the context of the scene. The project location on earth and true north should be set correctly, and for example, for SketchUp users, you can load on IES profile, the Inkscape objects window, by clicking load IES profile. The next tip is to add life to your model. Using the assets that come with Inkscape is really a hack in itself. Even though sometimes the furniture assets may not fit the style of the interior you are going for, I always find it easy to choose some accessories in the Inkscape asset library that enhance the scenes I'm working on. A few of the benefits you get from using the Inkscape asset library are that it takes less space on your modeling life. The assets are very high quality and modeled in detail and are ready to use with materials applied. Textures are king. That means that making a material look like brick or carpet is important and can look quite nice in Inkscape. However, taking the texture settings a little further can transform that nice image into a wow image. Think about composition. Before rendering a view to file, panorama, or exporting to X, take a minute to step back and look at the image as a whole. This can be hard to do when you have been working on the detail for so long. During this review, think about how someone else will perceive this image. Are there elements that overlap or align due to the view and perspective that might be confusing? Perhaps moving sideways in one direction will cause a potentially confusing situation. Also, make sure your eye level is correct. It is easy to accidentally change this setting over time as you are exploring the model and adjusting the view. Prepare your camera settings. A photographer does not just point the camera and press the button. No, they make several adjustments and may even change the lens to get the perfect shot. This combines technical knowledge and artistic flair. Inkscape has many of the same settings as a camera. Consider these settings when preparing your renderings: field of view, depth of field, focus, or auto exposure. In conclusion, when it comes to interior rendering in Inkscape, following these 5 simple steps can make a world of difference. You can implement and combine the Inkscape lights I have presented in limitless way to take your model to the next level. Wherever you are shooting for extreme realism or dramatic scenes, light is one of the easiest ways to achieve your goal. Place a few quick sources to light up the rooms in your model for a screenshot, or take the time to develop dedicated lighting for each room. Wherever you are a student presenting to your classmates and professors, or a professional presenting to clients, you can have more confidence that they will quickly and accurately understand your design intent. This can lead to quicker approvals and higher client satisfaction, which can then lead to repeat work. These are a few renders from my model I was working at, from the loft modeling, and this is the bedroom here. This is another view of a bedroom. And the last render is the living room with the kitchen. Thank you.